What if the most powerful shift in your life didn't come from doing more, but from daring to do nothing at all? Not from chasing, scripting, or hustling harder, but from sitting so still the universe finally had room to find you. There was once a man who decided to test that truth. For 27 mornings, he woke up before the world stirred and sat in the same quiet corner. No phone glowing in his hand, no playlists of affirmations humming in the background, no vision boards taped on his wall demanding to be stared at. He simply sat, eyes soft, breath steady, as if listening for something no one else could hear. His friends whispered he had lost his edge. His mentors feared he was falling behind. But on the 28th day, something unexplainable happened. He didn't send a single email. He didn't launch a single project. He didn't try to make it happen. Yet 3 opportunities he dreamed about for years appeared in his inbox, effortless, undeniable. Almost too easy. But was it? What no one saw during those 27 silent mornings was that this man wasn't sitting there, doing nothing. He was dismantling the invisible architecture of resistance within him. He was loosening the grip of an identity built on, my worth is what I produce. The harder I push, the faster life will respond. He stopped performing for the universe. And for the first time, he started listening. Here's the unspoken truth few dare to say aloud. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you're doing. It responds to what you're being, to something far more subtle and infinitely more powerful than action. Your state. That's why so many burn out. They hustle, they visualize, they chant mantras, and yet they replay the same timelines over and over again. They tick every box on the manifestation checklist and still feel unseen by the universe because they've mastered the language of doing, but the field only speaks frequency. And here's the twist. It's not just any frequency. It's the signal of who you are when you stop trying to prove anything, when you're not scripting, when you're not searching for signs, when you're not performing for the unseen. That's the moment the universe actually hears you. This isn't mystical fluff. In quantum physics, it has a name, coherence. Your body is a transmitter. Your thoughts are electric. Your heart is magnetic. Together, they form a vibrational signature, a broadcast that never turns off, not of your wishes, not of your words, but of your being. And here's the part that quietly undoes most people. You can do everything right while unconsciously transmitting the frequency of it's not working. You can script abundance while your nervous system still hums with survival. You can visualize wealth while radiating the vibration of desperation. That silent contradiction, it's why timelines don't collapse. It's why the life you dream of always feels one step away. But this man who sat in stillness, he wasn't lazy. He wasn't avoiding life. He was recalibrating. He was returning to something most of us forget in the noise of trying. You don't have to earn alignment. You don't have to force your way into it. You simply have to return. And that return cannot be faked. It can only be felt. Because here's the irony almost no one talks about. Most people try to manifest in a language the field doesn't even hear. They throw words, they stack strategies, they force rituals. But the field isn't logical, it's vibrational. It doesn't decode what you do. It decodes the energy you do it from. So let me ask you this. If you stopped every bit of effort today, no scripts, no steps, no strategies, would your presence alone still be magnetic enough to pull your future toward you? Would your energy whisper to the field, I am ready, I am whole, I am the signal? Or would the silence reveal how much of your life has been a performance, even for yourself? This is the truth we're going to unravel next. Because this isn't about doing nothing. It's about becoming so coherent, so anchored, that the universe has no choice but to meet you there. It's not about doing more. It's about becoming someone else entirely. Someone who no longer pulses from lack, who no longer performs like a stage actor, hoping the universe applauds, who no longer bargains with the unseen for proof. This isn't about asking the field to deliver. It's about becoming the version of you the field cannot ignore. By the time you reach the end of this journey, you won't be wondering, why hasn't it shown up yet? You'll know. You'll know exactly what signal you've been radiating and how to shift it from static into symphony. But to get there, We have to go deeper. We have to name the reason even the most devoted spiritual seekers, people with vision boards, journals, and rituals, still can't collapse timelines. There's a miscommunication happening, not between you and the universe, but between your intentions and your field. And the shift won't come from more effort. It will come from something softer, sharper, emotional congruence. Because the truth is, the field is already listening. Just not to what you thought. You felt this before. That strange, heavy moment when your life looks right on the surface. The checklist is checked, the routines are in place, and everyone around you thinks you're glowing. But deep inside, something feels off. A tension beneath the surface, a quiet tightening in your chest, a whisper that says, not yet, not enough, not safe. That's the moment the quantum field truly tunes in, not to your words, not to your plans, but to the unconscious transmission beneath it all, the one your body sends before you can censor it. Because most people secretly think the universe is like a parent, rewarding the good kids for effort, obedience, and discipline. But the quantum field isn't a parent. It isn't moral. It isn't sentimental. It's mathematical. It doesn't measure your effort. It calculates your coherence. It doesn't care about how many hours you meditate. It reflects only resonance. The signal, not the strategy, is what it responds to. And that signal, it's always now. In neuroscience and quantum biology, there's a name for this: state-dependent encoding. Your body literally stores memories and expectations based on how you've emotionally repeated certain frequencies, which means you could be visualizing wealth, chanting "I am abundant," but if you keep emotionally rehearsing scarcity, the field will only mirror scarcity back, not to punish you, to mirror you. Let's strip it down to something simple. Imagine you walk into a quiet room holding a tuning fork vibrating at 432 hertz. Across the room, there's another tuning fork tuned to the same note, and without touching it, without forcing it, without even moving, that second fork begins to hum. Why? Because resonance doesn't require effort. It simply happens. That's manifestation. The field doesn't grant wishes like a genie. It responds to coherence. When your intention, emotion, and embodiment harmonize, you become a broadcast tower. Everything aligned with that frequency just starts moving toward you, not because you begged, but because you vibrated. But here's the paradox almost no one sees. The moment you start trying to be in a high frequency, you've already lost it. Because trying is resistance, wanting is absence, performing is insecurity, and the field feels it immediately. This is why so many plateau. They work so hard to manifest from the mind, but their body is still carrying fear, still holding the vibration of separation, still humming with lack. Their words say one thing, their energy whispers another. And the field? It doesn't listen to the words, it listens to the whisper. Let's make this tangible. You write in your journal every morning, "I am abundant, I am aligned." But inside, there's a knot in your stomach, a tightness in your chest, a subtle, desperate checking of the clock, waiting for proof that it's working. That tension, that's your real broadcast. That's what the field hears. Because your conscious mind may speak in words, but your subconscious, which drives 95% of your signal, only speaks one language: emotion. And emotion is magnetic. Joe Dispenza says it best: an elevated emotion married to a clear intention is the formula for creation. But here's the trap. Most people only practice the intention. They skip the emotional rehearsal. They declare desires while vibrating the opposite feeling. It's like dialing the right number, but whispering into the wrong phone. The line never connects. And here's where it gets truly quantum. The field doesn't understand future tense. There's no "I will." There's no "one day." There is only now. The field only ever reflects the now state. If you are always becoming, you never arrive. If you are always reaching, you are broadcasting one silent message: it's not here yet. And the field, loyal to your vibration, mirrors it perfectly, holding the thing you want just far enough away to match the signal you're sending. Here's the quiet trap most people never see. Many use manifestation not to create, but to perform for safety. They don't believe they are worthy unless they are achieving. So they chase results, not out of pure creation, but to feel enough. What they don't realize, that chase hums with lack, and lack is what the field reflects. Because the quantum field doesn't care about your checklist. It doesn't respond to how hard you try. It responds to your energetic posture. And if your posture is built on effort, proving, earning, you unknowingly push the very thing you're calling toward you further away. So what's the shift? Stop being a performer. Start becoming a broadcaster. Stop proving. Start transmitting. Stop acting as if. Start embodying as is. Because the most powerful manifester isn't the one who knows the most tools. It's the one who needs the fewest. Why? Because their frequency speaks louder than their actions, their coherence collapses timelines, and the universe can't help but respond. But here's where we go even deeper. This isn't just about tools, it's about identity. Your self-concept, the invisible blueprint you carry, is the code the field listens to most closely. You can set intentions all day, but if the identity beneath those intentions is still broadcasting struggle, fear, or doubt, your signal will contradict your desires, and the field will always mirror your signal. So pause and ask the question almost no one asks. Who are you before you even start manifesting? Not what you want, not what you visualize, but who have you unconsciously decided you are? That identity, subtle, quiet, often invisible, is the source code the quantum field responds to. Not your dreams, not your affirmations, but the assumption of self you drag into every room, every ritual, every breath. This is where manifestation stops feeling like magic and starts feeling like architecture. Because your frequency isn't built on your vision boards. It's built in your nervous system. It's carved in the stories you repeat. It's etched in the emotional cycles you rehearse. It's written in the way you expect life to treat you even before it does. That's what we call your vibrational identity. And it's more powerful than any technique you'll ever learn. Think about it. You could wake up at 5 a.m., light candles, meditate for 45 minutes, repeat "I am abundant" 108 times. But if your body still carries the identity of the one who was rejected, who had to hustle for love, who never felt safe being seen, your signal will hum with contraction, not coherence. You'll be doing everything right, but doing it from the identity of someone still trying to become, not the one who already is. This is the silent saboteur of manifestation. An identity wired for effort, trying to speak the language of ease. And the field, which only hears vibration, can't translate that contradiction. The field reflects your being, not your doing. So what shapes this identity? From a quantum perspective, identity isn't just psychological, it's vibrational. Every thought you think, especially the ones paired with strong emotion, etches a neurochemical groove. Repeat that groove often enough, and your brain, efficient as always, starts to default to it. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this the familiar past, a state where your future is just your past on repeat. But identity doesn't live only in your mind. It's somatic. It lives in your breath, in your posture, in the subtle muscle contractions when someone says your name. Your body remembers who you've been, and if you don't interrupt that loop, you won't manifest what you desire. You'll manifest what you're used to being. This is why high vibe practices sometimes stop working, not because they're broken, but because they're being done from an old identity. It's like trying to install new software on a device that's still running an outdated operating system. The code glitches, the command doesn't land. So how do you shift that? First, you must catch the moment you slip back into the old self. The one who doubts, the one who forces, the one who scans for signs instead of radiating certainty. Most people don't even notice when this shift happens. It's subtle, a sigh, a shrinking, a hesitation. These micro-expressions are the breadcrumbs, the little signals that you've stepped back into an identity the field can no longer support. Your new timeline will never attach itself to the old version of you, and the quantum field knows that truth better than anyone. That's why it resists handing new outcomes to those still wearing expired identities. It's not punishment, it's preservation. The field protects coherence, because if it delivered something your current frequency couldn't hold, you would distort it, or worse, lose yourself in it. So what's the path forward? You don't rewrite identity by chanting louder. You don't bully yourself into new beliefs. You become someone new by embodying a new frequency so consistently that eventually it's not an act anymore. This isn't faking. This is vibrational rehearsal. You practice the feeling of already being until acting as if dissolves, and you finally live as is. Start small, sit in stillness, not to pull something in, not to beg, not even to attract. Sit only to observe. Feel the version of you who no longer chases. Breathe with them, walk like them, and ask yourself quietly, what would I no longer do if I truly believed I already am who I say I am? Then stop doing those things. Your new identity is not a costume. It's not an aesthetic. It's not a Pinterest mood board. It's a frequency. And when your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions lock into that single frequency, you stop asking for confirmation. You become the confirmation. You stop looking for the sign. You are the sign. In the next stretch of this journey, we bring in a practice. Simple, profound, powerful, that rewires identity softly, but completely. It doesn't require hours. It doesn't need props or performance. Just one thing, presence. Because the quantum field doesn't need you to convince it. It only needs you to become so coherent, so internally aligned, that it has no choice but to mirror back what you already are. When that shift happens, everything begins to organize itself around you, naturally, effortlessly, instinctively. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you feel this shift begin. Suddenly, you're not doing the ritual to get something. You're not repeating affirmations to prove you believe. You are simply being, not acting, not reaching, just allowing yourself to embody what the field has been holding for you all along. This is the sweet spot, where the quantum field begins to respond before you even realize you've changed, and it doesn't take hours. It doesn't take scripting. It begins with one thing, a single transmission, pure, honest, congruent. We call it the coherence pulse, a 90-second practice that recalibrates your signal and locks it onto the timeline you've already chosen. Here's how it flows. You wake up. Before you reach for your phone, before you scroll, before you let the past creep into your body through headlines or someone else's messages, you pause, sit, eyes open or closed. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. You transmit before you receive. Take one deep, slow breath in, and as you exhale, imagine your chest expanding. Not just with air, but with signal. You're not just breathing, you're sending. Then choose 3 words, not affirmations, not goals, frequencies, states you want to live from, not things you want to own, but truths you want to embody. Maybe it's certain, open, magnetic, or perhaps peaceful, worthy, complete. Whisper them, feel them. Let your body adjust to match them. Now imagine those words radiating outward like a pulse, not in a begging way, not in a hopeful way, but in a knowing way. You're not asking, you're not convincing. You're simply stating, this is who I am today. This is the signal I'm sending. This is the version of me the field will meet. Here's where the shift happens. Most people finish their morning rituals and slide right back into their old self. They perform alignment and then collapse back into contraction. But with the coherence pulse, you do something radically different. You anchor your new identity before the world tells you who you are. You set the tone, you transmit the code, and what follows is subtle, but unmistakably real. Your posture shifts, your breath slows, your decisions sharpen. You start saying no without guilt. You start saying yes without fear, because you're no longer responding to the old field, the one built from your past signal. You are now walking in the field you just pulsed into existence, and you didn't chase it. You became the signal it could not ignore. That's the real magic. So here's your invitation. Do this for 7 mornings. Before anyone else's energy touches yours, Let this be your broadcast. And to anchor it deeper, right now, right here, let's mark this moment. Let your future self know the signal has changed. Comment below, I am the signal, not because you're desperate to manifest faster, but because you finally understand. The field never needed your effort. It needed your coherence. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when you don't just pulse coherence in the morning, but actually live from it all day. How to hold that frequency when conversations trigger you, when doubts creep in, when the world tests your signal. Not by fighting, but by becoming immune to their pull. Because here's the paradox. When you stop chasing, you start collapsing timelines. You've transmitted the signal, you've pulsed the field with coherence, and for a moment, maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, everything feels lighter, clearer, aligned. But then, a message arrives and suddenly doubt stirs. A delay stretches and anxiety tempts you. An old situation, an old wound, pulls you back toward the version of you you've already decided to leave behind. This is the real test. Not a test of willpower, not a punishment from the universe, but a test of energetic stability. The quantum field isn't cruel. It isn't dangling what you want just to watch you suffer. It's showing you, moment by moment, where your broadcast fractures, where the signal weakens, where the old timeline still whispers. And this is the place where most people collapse. Not because they failed, not because they weren't worthy, but because they didn't anchor their new frequency deep enough to hold steady when resistance rose. But what if holding your alignment didn't mean forcing it? What if alignment was never about discipline and strain, but about remembrance? Because here's the truth. You don't need to fight your old patterns. You don't need to wrestle your old self into submission. You just need to keep sending the new signal long enough until it becomes the only one you can hear. Your frequency is maintained through tiny, invisible agreements you make with yourself all day long. Not in the dramatic leaps, not in the rituals and breakthroughs you post about online, but in the micro choices, the small pauses, the subtle yes, the quiet no, the way your body breathes when no one is watching. Because manifestation isn't built from the fireworks. Timelines shift when your tiny choices stop betraying your new identity. A message comes, one that would have once made you shrink, doubt, overthink. The old self would spiral, but this time you stop, you breathe. You remember, I am the signal. That pause is not passive. It's quantum recalibration. It's you telling the field, I no longer react from my history, I now respond from my alignment. Another moment. You feel the old urgency rising, the need to control, the temptation to chase, but you interrupt it. You ask yourself, would the version of me who has already received this feel this urgency? And when the answer is no, you embody that no. You slow, you soften, you transmit instead of grab. These moments stack. They build a new energetic posture, and posture is power. Because posture tells the field, I am safe enough to allow. I am certain enough not to prove. I am already what I've been trying to become. And that's when timelines begin to bend. To hold that frequency all day, your world has to become a mirror of what you're creating, not a constant test of it. That doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean you hide from contrast. It means you curate. Curate your spaces, curate your inputs, curate your conversations. Ask yourself, what music supports the version of me I'm embodying? What light, what scent, what texture reminds me I'm safe now? Who are the 3 people who speak to the future me, not the past one? And maybe more importantly, what thoughts will I no longer entertain? Not because they're bad, but because they no longer belong to this signal. This is energetic hygiene, frequency stewardship. It's not obsessive, it's intentional. And when you feel yourself slipping, because you will, you don't spiral. You don't shame yourself. You come back to the breath, not to calm down, but to broadcast. You whisper your 3 words, you pulse again, you return to being the broadcaster. Because here's the deepest truth. You're not practicing to stay high vibe. You're practicing to become unavailable for anything else. And over time, it stops being practice. It becomes your baseline. You become emotionally immune to chaos, not numb, but anchored, not robotic, but sovereign. And the field, it starts bending. It organizes, it rearranges, it delivers. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stayed still when you used to flinch. You stayed open when you used to brace. You stayed certain when you used to question. And that, not the rituals, not the effort, not the grinding hope, that is what collapses timelines. And now, we arrive at the final truth. The moment where every technique, every ritual, every alignment practice melts into something quieter, something simpler, something more powerful than anything you could force or perform. Because manifestation doesn't happen when you perfect the practice. It happens when you forget you were ever missing the thing. When your frequency becomes so whole, so magnetic, so perfectly itself, the field has no choice but to match you. Not as reward, but as reflection. And this is where surrender begins. Not the surrender people misunderstand. The kind where you give up, lower your standards, collapse from exhaustion. This is real surrender, a vibrational decision. It's when your being becomes so congruent with your intention that you don't monitor the timeline. You don't scan the field for signs. You don't beg the universe to prove it's listening, because you're no longer separate from what you asked for. Surrender here isn't giving up, it's giving in to the now. It's leaning back into trust while still walking with precision. It's soft eyes with a sharp spirit. It's calm action with zero tension. And here's the irony. It's when you no longer need the thing that the thing starts looking for you. Because the field responds to freedom, not freedom from effort, but freedom from attachment. When you are no longer tangled up in when, how, why not yet, your signal clears, your frequency sharpens, your magnetism becomes inevitable. This is what Neville Goddard called living in the wish fulfilled. Not waiting, not hoping, not reaching, but being now, the version of you who doesn't have to ask anymore, because you already are the vibration of it. And in that moment, time collapses. Synchronicities align, doors swing open, calls come, ideas rush in, and none of it feels like you did anything. Because you didn't. You became. This is the difference between performance and power, between force and flow, between trying and transmitting. So as you leave this video, I don't want you to add another layer of effort. I want you to subtract the noise. I want you to exhale. I want you to trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be convinced. It only needs one thing, your coherence. Let today be the day you stop using your energy to get somewhere and start using your energy to become someone. The version of you that no longer performs for the field, but speaks its language fluently. And when that happens, everything you've ever imagined begins to orbit you. Not because you chased it, but because you finally tuned your frequency to the truth. You were it all along. And now if something stirred in you today, if something clicked or resonated or helped you remember who you really are at your core, then you're already in the shift. And you're not alone. This isn't just a video. This is a frequency, a space where science meets soul, where the signal grows stronger together. So if this vibration matches yours, subscribe now. Not just for more content, but because this is a movement, and you are already part of it.